In this video I will show my current setup for C41 color film development, and we will develop film from my trip to Venice, Italy, so let's go to the darkroom. I'm using 3 solutions from Tetanal, so it's only 3 bottles with a color developer, Blix Fix and a stabilizer. You also need a small supplies like funnels, measuring cylinders, and try to keep everything clean. And before all the runs I usually clean this bucket what I use for water circulation, because I don't use DI water, I'm using only just regular tap water. And here in Germany water is really hard and horrible for chemicals. So I prepare all the chemicals with the distilled water, but I'm using for rinsing of the film the water from the tap. So I'm setting up the circulator for a little bit higher than 38 degrees. And today we will develop 4 rolls of film. To load up everything I'm using scissors, can opener, and for one run I can only load in this pouch bag only 2 films. I'm using not Yobo tank, and I'm using this tank from Patterson. It's much simpler for stand development, and I just start from this type of development. You have a core, and if you put it inside you can close the lid, and with a small plastic part you can rotate the roll inside the tank. To start loading I need to put 2 rolls of the film, scissors, can opener, and the fully assembled drum for development inside the bag, and load everything in complete darkness through the sleeves. To load the film easier, it's much better to open the can and unwind it back to your finger and load it basically from the back side. For development I'm using this app, and at the moment I have a development number 10 of my rolls. So it means I need to add a little bit more time for development and much more time for bleach fix. To check the temperature I'm using the just human body temperature thermometer, because it's double digit after comma, and it's in the same range as the color film development. So when you start you just press on the circle and your timer starts, and you can continue with the second timers, and meanwhile you're rotating the stem and put everything in the tray. So let's start with the preheating of the drum. At the moment I'm trying to develop without pre-soaking of the film. I think in general pre-soaking doesn't really give you better results, because it's decreasing actually exposure time, so you need a much more time and you need to compensate around 30 seconds if you're using pre-soaking. In some manuals on the color developer it actually says you need a pre-soaking to heat up the film and heat up the drum. And sometimes it actually says you just need to preheat the drum, for example in rotation as a job. So I'm using kind of a combined method in this case. Also important part for this development is using this kind of a big funnels, because after you make a rotation and you make a development you can easily drop the funnel in the bottle and you can quickly remove all the chemicals, and you don't care about like spillage around and so on. It saves a lot of time and it's less messy than you use like no funnels or like just a small funnel. And the last step, after washing, you need to apply this surface active agent to quickly dry the film without any residue on top, and it's also, you know, dissolved in DI water, so it's much cleaner than the tap water. And this is my last 2 rolls, and because it was shot on as ISO 200, basically native ISO, I don't make any pushing process with the, with the chemicals. So it's more or less standard film development procedure. Try to not touch the wet emulsion, otherwise you can damage it and create scratches. I usually apply squeegee once in one direction and apply the clips from both sides. One of the clips is actually weighted, and it's really good technique to use the drying method as I using here, to run the shower for a few minutes before you hang out your film to remove all the dust and increase the humidity inside the room, so it will not create the static electricity and your film will dry almost at the same time but without any dust. And when it's done you just roll it inside this roll and I usually put it in a plastic bag. And I cut it only when I make a scans, so my scans usually crazy clean and I don't use any cleaning solution or anything afterwards. So for next two rolls I will repeat the procedure, but here I need to adjust time again, and I'm usually never develop more than 16 rolls of ISO 200 film, and for ISO 400 or push-pull film it's actually reducing the time, basically shelf life of your chemicals. And for example, I have this 1 liter of solution, and without any problems I can store it for like half a year or even a year. So if you shoot like 3-4 rolls of film per year, it's not a big deal to store your 1 liter chemicals. But in principle you can divide it in half and use only half a liter of your solution. And in this case, also if you're using Yobo tank, you save even more chemicals than usually with the batch development in the standing tank. For scanning of a 35mm film, I'm using this Plastech 135 scanner. It's relatively modern and I really like this results with the combination of the Negative Lab Pro and with the negative scans. The scanner itself is crazy cheap, it's I think 300 euros or something like this. And it's much more compact system if you compare it to the scanning with the DSLR, and it gives a little bit better results I think, just because of the convenience, and you can easily remove it. If you don't want to invest money in the scanning with the camera, it's a really good option, and it's a modern software, so you just can scan as a negative directly and it's already give you more or less good results. Because I scan it as a positive, I'm using Negative Lab Pro to make a conversion, and the first step I just crop the picture a little bit and convert this TIFF file to the final negative. It's quite simple process, I will not show like the full process what I'm using. Only one point here, I don't like the saturation levels from my scans from this scanner. Maybe it's a scanner feature or maybe it's just like my taste, I'm not sure. So I usually bump it up, and I'm using Naritsu scanner model for Negative Lab Pro. You usually get the straightforward good results looking as a scan. And if you have any experience to make corrections in the darkroom for color photography, it's crazy simple to correct any colors, and you can basically remove all the auto features and you can correct the colors by hand. And what is the advantage of the digital process here? You can actually balance the shadows and highlights separately a little bit, so it gives you more options, and you can balance it out some underexposed negatives and especially greenish shadows on some films. So we have a lot of different advantages. But even without any movements of the sliders, you can get pretty solid results, and at least it's a good reference starting point. And as you saw in my previous videos with the development and direct printing of the film in a darkroom, this is more or less close enough to Array4 paper and direct printing on Array4 paper. So that's it for today, and thank you for watching.